This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Best of Bob Lowry. In this episode, I'm going to talk to Bob Lowry about basic chemical dosing. And of course, knowing the pool's volume is key to dosing the pool correctly. So no one is better at explaining these things than Bob Lowry. And that's why I bring these Best of Bob Lowrys back, because I can't do it as good as Bob Lowry used to do, and he explains concepts about pool chemistry. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy coaching program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Dosing for the pool tech, pool owner, is knowing your pool volume. Yes. And some pools are harder to calculate than others, but in your book, you have all different charts of how to calculate the volume. So what would be, that is number one, right? Knowing how much water is in the pool?
Yes, and it is a mathematical calculation. You have to figure out what the average depth is in the pool, and then whatever the shape is, and trying to get a cubic feet, and then multiplying it times the number of gallons in a cubic foot, and you end up with the gallons in the pool. One of the things that is important, if you do a calculation to add a dose to your pool and you don't get what you expected, then your pool's not the size you think it is. And that's one of the keys. If you want to increase alkalinity by 20 parts per million, and you calculate how much bicarb to do it, and you put it in there and it doesn't go up by 20, then you don't have the gallons you thought you did. So that's one of the things, and we do have a method that's in the big book that I have. There is a method for actually chemically deriving the pool volume, and it does use bicarb. And you calculate you take a before total alkalinity reading, and then you add an exact amount of bicarb to the pool, let it mix well enough, and then you make another reading on alkalinity, and then you multiply the difference between the starting and ending alkalinity, whatever that difference is, times a factor, and you can get gallons. And it's a pretty cool way to do it, even if you just want to settle a bet about what size a pool is. You can actually calculate it right down to the gallon. So
and that's in your book.
A way to do it.
That's in your book, Pool Chemistry for Residential Pools, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and that's available on Amazon. I'll give you a little plug. That's a great book. I have it in my hand right now. Yeah. One of the great references. And I think that's important too, because especially if you have a saltwater pool on your route and you're charging it with salt, and I always caution people, I even filmed the video where I'm charging a pool with salt, and you get the numbers on the back of the bag of how much salt to add. Of course, there's apps to calculate that too. Right. And I always tell the pool pro, put in 2 less bags than it calls for, because you don't know if that pool is actually that size until you actually add the salt and get the reading. And that's a good way to know that you've actually underestimated it by several thousand gallons in some cases.
Yeah, we did a video with a friend of mine who's a service tech, and he started a pool up. He did a TDS reading on the pool, and then he put in the bags, and he should have gotten an increase of 3,000 parts per million of salt, and it didn't happen. So I back calculated it for him and calculated his pool, and he thought he had a 14,000 gallon pool, and it was 11,400 gallons.
Yeah, so that's a real danger, not knowing the dosage. And so the magic number for the chemical companies is 10,000 gallons. And so if you have a bag of shock, or if you're adding any kind of, sequestering agent or clarifier, they're basing everything off of 10,000 gallons. And that's an important thing to note if you're a pool pro starting out or a homeowner, is that that dosage on the bag is not, it doesn't correlate directly to your pool size. It's based on 10,000 gallons, right?
Yeah, most of the manufacturers use 10,000 gallons because it's pretty easy to calculate your dose based on that. If you simply take whatever pool gallons you have and divide it by 10,000, that will give you the multiplier to get the right dose. So if you have a 16,000 gallon pool, you divide it by 10,000, the easy way to do it, just to move the decimal point, it's 1.6. 10,000 into 16,000 is 1.6. So whatever the dose is, you multiply it times 1.6.
Yeah, very easy. Once you know the approximate gallons of your pool, to know that 10,000 mark. Because a lot of people think that, throwing in 1 pound of shock in a 20,000 gallon pool is going to do what the bag says, and it won't.
No.
Yeah. And so, if you have a larger pool, the dosage has to be doubled. In a smaller pool, likewise, you don't want to overdose the pool based on that 10,000 gallon. You would know that you have to put half of that in there if you have a 5,000 gallon pool.
Right. One of the things that you can do if you've had the pool recently built, they usually give you a set of plans, because in most areas, like in California, the plans have to be approved. And one of the calculations on the plan is the engineer, engineers are people that like to figure that kind of stuff out. The engineering diagrams will have the gallons for the pool in it.
Yeah.
And it's really accurate. And you can also get it from the building department. So there is a way to get the gallons if you have the plans.
And one thing also, it's kind of a side note, if you have a fiberglass spa, it looks bigger than it actually is. The gallons in there, people think, oh, I have a pretty big spa. But in reality, you may just have 350 gallons of water in there.
Yes. There is a way to calculate that. I came up with a constant at one time, but you can actually measure in inches and decimal equivalents and measure and then take it times along with the depth and take it times the multiplier, and that multiplier is pretty accurate. So there is a way to actually calculate that. But because a spa is such a small gallons of water, one of the things that you can do is to, if you drained it and you're about to refill it, get a 5-gallon bucket and turn your hose on and fill the 5-gallon bucket and see how long it takes to fill 5 gallons into the bucket. There's a stopwatch on your phone, and just see how many seconds it takes to fill a 5-gallon bucket. Then put the hose in the spa and fill it up and divide it by how many seconds it took to make 5 gallons. You can do the calculation and see how close it is.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I'm going to try that one. That way I can kind of gauge it a little better. And plus, the manufacturers will tell you what size spa you have if you bought one, if you didn't inherit one when you bought the house.
Well, many times you will find that the gallons coming out of the hose is between 4 and 5 gallons a minute. And so when you fill it up, it should take X number of minutes. 5 into 350 is 70 minutes.
Yeah, we did a separate podcast already on parts per million. They can refer to that one. But I think it's important to mention this here in dosing, is that a lot of chemicals will use the parts per million. Parts per million is a way to calculate the amount of chemical in a pool in a lot of cases. And so, why is that significant? Why do they stick the parts per million in the pool versus other ways of measuring?
Well, you have to have a way to get an amount of chemical in that if we didn't all agree to one method, every manufacturer would have a different method. Had this for so many inches or had that for so many liters or something, and you'd end up with just a mishmash of stuff. So parts per million is an accurate way to do it because we can measure in parts per million now. So it's just that the calculation of parts per million is difficult. But to understand it, if you take the gallons in the pool and multiply it times the pounds there are in a gallon, you will know the pounds of water in your pool. And if you divide it by 1,000,000, that's how many pounds it takes to make 1 part per million.
And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description.
Your pool.
Yeah, pretty basic, and of course all the reagent testing and everything is measured in parts per million, except for pH. That's the only one that is not.
pH is a value. It's not. Yeah. It's not a ppm or a number or anything. It's a pp. It's a value.
And the last question is, when I first was trained, the guy that trained me was like, when you add chemicals, acid or chlorine, run the pool for 3 hours, and that's the rule of thumb in the industry. But as I started doing more pools and realizing that there's some 25,000 gallon pools and things of that nature, I don't think the 3 hour time fits every pool. And then I get asked by customers all the time, after you leave, how soon can I jump in the pool and swim? A lot of times I won't add acid if I know they're going to use the pool, within an hour or so. So what are some of the guidelines you think for running the pool after adding chemicals and jumping in the pool? Let's say you added, a quart of muriatic acid. What would be some of the guidelines there?
Well, first of all, it's how you add it. And, if you're going to add it full strength and stand in one spot, that's different than if you dilute it and then pour it over top of the return line. Okay. So, or if you're going to dilute it and maybe walk it all the way around the perimeter of the pool, the mixing time is a lot less if you diluted it and then taken, say, a dose and put it in 5 gallons of water and then pour the 5 gallons evenly, walking the perimeter of the whole pool with the pump running. Or even add half of the bucket right on top of the return line. That's going to mix it a lot faster than if you just poured it in one spot and walked away. So it depends on how you put it in there. But assuming that you dispersed it as well as practical, I would say an hour is okay for practically anything you put in the pool.
Mm-hmm. As long as you put it in the right.
Except for if you're going to do a shock or something like that. Technically, EPA says that you can shock up to 10 parts per million of chlorine, but you shouldn't have people get in the water until the chlorine level is less than 4.
That's kind of weird because I know a lot of commercial pools will allow 10 parts per million as their maximum. So isn't that kind of contrary to what they're allowing?
Yes, but EPA is federal and state health codes are state, and they think they're sovereign. So, and besides, EPA doesn't have the chlorine police running around checking the pools. So,
yeah, that's true. And I think, as far as that clears up a lot of the dosing things, because I get asked a lot, customers wanting to have a pool party in 2 hours and I'm at the pool right now. What should I tell them? And you said if you add the chemicals correctly, except for the shocking of the pool, then 1 hour should be pretty safe, right?
It should be if they've got good circulation and you've diluted it and poured it around the pool and got it dispersed as much as you can. An hour is okay. The chemical reactions are all done by then. You asked about finding the dose and stuff. I did make an app, by the way, called the Pool Chem Dose Calculator. And it has 38 generic chemicals in there. And you simply put in your gallons and how many ppms you want and what you want to do, and it calculates it for you and tells you exactly how many ounces or fluid ounces or whatever you need to put in the pool.
And I think if you're a pool service pro, you should have your apps on hand for that reason. It makes things easier because if you're trying to calculate everything at the pool side, you have 90 service accounts. You're gonna spending a lot of time getting that dosage right versus having an app that could just do it for you. It's
So
much
yeah,
easier.
there is an app and it tells you exactly what to do and how much to put in, and it's I think it's a $5.99 app, and it's a one-time purchase. You own it forever.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Bob, for all the time on these podcasts. And again, I don't know, I can't remember how many series we've done now, 5 or 6 of them. I lose track. And I think every single one of these series really adds insight for the pool professional and the homeowner that's maintaining a pool, from dosing, the pool surface type, the startup, to the previous ones on all the other subjects that we did. So there's so many different aspects of chemistry that you spent your life, of course, learning this and teaching it. You can't know it all by, after 45 years, can you?
Well, I think I'm close to knowing it all. After 48 years of being a chemist and teaching this and hearing people and doing things, I finally think I've figured most of it out. But it's taken a really, really long time. The advantage that I had over most other chemists is if I want to spend a week doing something, I can do it. I don't have a boss telling me I can't do it. So I can do something until I'm satisfied I got the answers.
And if you're looking for other episodes, you can go to my website, and there's over 1,700 episodes there for you to download. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel Monday through Friday. A new episode drops each day during the week. And if you're interested in my coaching program, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.